Okay. One quick thing about the brain. The brain, I talk about two forms of memory. One that's like a backpack, that's our short-term memory, and one that's like a locker. That's kind of our long-term memory. And the key to learning is you need to move the information from your short-term memory into your long-term memory. Once you are able to do that, then you actually can remember it. One of the powerful things I learned in that book was that inside your locker, okay, imagine it this way. There is a toothpaste, a thing of toothpaste in there. And then there's a bunch of pictures and everything hung up, okay? And the reason they talk about this toothpaste is when you try and remember a fact, okay, like that's all you're trying to do is memorize a fact, it's almost like trying to put toothpaste into a toothpaste container. It's very hard to do. It's a very hard thing to try and memorize a fact. But one thing that we're able to do and remember easier is if we remember pictures. Okay, if we can somehow turn that information into a picture, it's almost like taking that picture and hanging it up in your locker. Okay, it's much easier to do than it is to try and memorize a fact or a set of numbers or something like that, if you can visualize it. So what I'm going to ask you to do today is as we're talking about these strategies, don't try and memorize the strategy. Try and create a picture in your mind as we're going through. Because if you're able to make that picture in your mind, you're going to be able to remember it much easier. And if you can remember it, then you can actually try and use it. Okay? And so the setup of the lesson, 2, is for me to demonstrate it and then have you practice it. Okay? So if you're visualizing it, if you're actually trying it out, then these are things that you should be able to remember. Okay? So these are good things to learn. Okay?
I have a question.
Again, we do not do questions during the mini lesson, so we can just get through the time. Okay? So I'll answer that question afterwards. Okay, so authors. Authors don't do anything by mistake. Excuse me. Enough. If you need to move, move. If you need to scoot, scoot. Okay? If you guys can't sit next to each other, don't sit next to each other. Like, have some space in between. There's no mistakes. It's not like Katie Camillo woke up and was like, I'll make Rob like this. And then she just like picked things and dashes here and dashes there and just was like, whatever. Okay? So what we want to do is we want to pay attention to when an author does something. Okay? We want to pay attention to them because then we can kind of start to figure out the character even more. Okay? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if I wanted to make a list of character traits or of things that are specific about Sistine, where would I start? Sistine. She wears dresses, right? That's something. That's something that's repeated. Right? So the author, Katie Camillo, made sure that she was in dresses. So she wears dresses. Her name is different, right? She has a name, Sistine. She's named after the Sistine Chapel. What else? She's pretty aggressive. Right? She's aggressive. She gets into fights. Aggressive fights. And then she has angry eyes. She has angry eyes. So what I want to do here is when I notice this stuff about a character, I want to try and think about what might this mean about that character and what is the author trying to tell me. Okay, so I might say something like, this could mean that Sistine, that the author wants to make her different? Like she wants to make sure that this girl is set apart from the story? Right? Could be. Notice I'm using the word could. Okay, I'm just developing a theory. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to think what might be the case. What could be happening? Okay? So maybe she's different. Is there any support in the book about that? Let me think. The way she talks is different, right? She responds to people a little differently than other characters in the book. So I feel pretty good about that. I think the author is trying to make her different, and I think also the fact that she wears these pretty dresses and then also has angry eyes. That's an interesting difference. You wouldn't think that the author, like there's a reason she's doing that. And we'll talk about that later. But what I want you to do with your partner right now is I want you to work and I want you to think about Rob. What are some traits or some things that the author has given Rob? What are some things that he repeats? And what might that mean about Rob? So go ahead and turn and work with your partner. What about Rob? How would you describe Rob? What is he? All right, 3, 2, 1, 0. Heard some people mention the rash. The rash is something that the author has repeated a lot. Him shrugging, that's something that the author has repeated a lot. That he's interested in art, that's something that's been repeated a lot. Okay, so think to yourself and try and push yourself. What might this mean about Rob? What kind of person might he be because of this? And what is the author trying to show us by using these items? Okay, so this is something that you can think about every time that you read it. And that is, what is the author doing on purpose? Okay, what traits are they giving this character? What are they trying to show you through repetition? Are they trying to repeat anything? Okay, because again, authors don't do anything by accident. What I want you to do now, again, can you develop a picture of that in your head, what we just talked about? Be sure to write it down in your mini lesson page, and then have your partner sign off on that, saying, yes, I agree, no, I don't, putting their name next to it. So I noticed we were struggling with that the other day. I looked through a bunch of people's mini lessons page and only saw a few people sign it. So put your name there, saying that you checked someone else's work, your partner, and that you either agree with their work or you disagree, or you're just not sure. So do that now.
But there was a writing.
Read. But we talked about authors, which is writing. It's the 1st of October. Yeah, it's October 1st today.
I have to wake up.
Pretty excited.
Why? Yes, why? Oh, yo me voy para Cancún. Quiero que sea Halloween. It's July, they'll go 12 hours in a car. Siempre cuando llego con mi 12 hours in a car, I go. I'm going to my car.
Recall that to your mind, okay? What have been some things that we've been working on? Computers are closed at this point, please? Closed. Computers are closed. You don't need them right now. Closed. Closed, closed, closed. Just try and bring them forth to your mind. What are some things we've talked about? Try and bring them back. Just in your mind. You don't need to talk to anybody. See if you can actively recall them. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things that we've talked about. All right, here we go. Dream the dream. Tell the story from inside it. Be the character. Okay, what does it look like? What does it sound like? As you write, you should be making corrections. So we don't wait to edit until the very end. We don't write summaries. We write stories. Computers are closed. We don't need computers open. Close, close, close. Use checklists to figure out how you're doing. As long as you're not talking about aliens and things seem true, it's all good. What is the story really about? And then bring out the structure. That's the last thing we talked about. That story arc. Computers closed. I'm writing my piece on my dog. And remember I said what I wanted to bring out was the relationship between my wife and I. How good of a team we are. And so what I want to do is, as I'm reading through this, I want to think about, is there a moment that I want to elaborate more on? Okay, to really show that relationship. Okay? Because what I want to do is I really want to slow down the parts that are more important. Okay, and speed through the parts that are not as important. Okay? And so what I want to do, again, is try and figure out, where is my wife in the story? Am I showing the relationship? Okay? Am I slowing things down and doing that? So I know that she's at the beginning. I don't know if here, let's see. She responded. So my wife is talking here. Whimpers, that was me thinking about stuff. She's been in the back. My wife here again. And then I think in the back. I locked eyes with my wife. And then she took the house. Okay, so what do I want to do? Do I want to... Actually, I like this part where, like, we lock eyes, and then, without saying anything, she took the hose from Louisa and then started to fill the tub with water. How can I slow that down even more? Because I think that shows we're not talking to each other, we just kind of know what we're supposed to do. Okay? So what could I put here? Maybe something like... Oh, no. Our eyes locked onto one another. My wife did the briefest of nods. Said, "We got this. We got this." I thought... The only thing that you tell me when you know something's happening on the outside is if you're not focused, just so you know. I think everything's going to be okay. So our eyes locked onto one another. My wife did the briefest of nods and said, "We got this." I think everything is going to be okay. So what did I do there? I added an action. I described, I guess I could have, our eyes. I kind of described our eyes. I gave my wife an action of nodding her head. She said something, and I thought something. So there's 4 things that we've been thinking about. So this will tell my readers, hey, this is an important part. Pay attention to this. Okay? Because I'm slowing down and elaborating on those important parts. So what I want you to do now is I want you to go into your draft. And I want you to find a part that you think you might be able to elaborate on to show the readers what your story is really about. So if you have that draft on paper, look through that now. If it's in your computer, you can open that computer.
Doing it because you know that I have an idea and I'm doing it in I have a little part. Just a little part.
So maybe find a spot and highlight it if you're on it.
How do you highlight my draft?
You can highlight it. There's a way to highlight it. You can change the font. You can circle it.
If I wasn't what?
Think about a spot in your draft. You should, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, you should have 2 drafts, at least.
They have 3 drafts.
At least. If you don't, what you are saying is you need to do work from home this week.
Mr. Light, I have 3.
Again, if you do not have at least 2 drafts, you are saying I am going to be doing some extra work from home this week.
I have 2, but not the what the story.
Or they might use that this time.
I wouldn't. I definitely use the focus time to focus. Where might be a part that you would want to elaborate because it's more important? Just highlight it or circle it. You have 2 parts? Great.
No. I have.
It's okay to elaborate on
I
all.
have 2 stories. But one I haven't finished. 3 stories and they're all.
And so you read through them and think, where is one part I might be able to elaborate on? What's an important part?
2, but they're like the same on the computer and what.
Up to you. Make a decision.
But not of this. What is the
Then you know what you need to write. All right, for the last minute as well, kind of think to yourself, what was the purpose of the lesson? Can you create a picture in your mind of it so that you can tape it up to your locker? Be sure to fill out on your writing mini lessons page what this little mini lesson was about. Have your partner look at it, sign it, and say, yes, I agree, no, I don't, or I'm not sure.
But so with that highlighted part, we do the same as. Mr. Light, how do you say trincheras in English?
You're on the internet, man. Like you've gone to Google Translate before, right? Have you ever used Google Translate before? Like you type in the word and then it tells you what it thinks the English word is. It's way more efficient than asking people.